From Carolla One Studios in Glendale, California, this is the Adam Carolla Show. Adam's guest today, New York Times best-selling author and organizational psychologist, Adam Grant. With Gina Grant on news and Bald Bryan on sound effects, and now, still nursing a sore shoulder from his annual Father's Day rock climbing trip with his dad and Sonny. Adam Carolla.
Yeah, get it on. Got to get it on. No choice but to get it on. Mandate you get it on. Thanks for tuning in. Thanks for telling a friend, right, Gina Grant?
That's right.
And Bald Bryan.
I'm not a hero. You guys are just assholes.
Yeah.
Well, I got some travel questions for Gina and Bald.
Oh.
Vexing travel questions. Brian's an expert, I look at, is travel.
This ought to be good.
But still, I don't know if you can riddle this one away.
Am I a de facto expert? Just
De facto.
Yeah.
I was gonna
Everyone
say,
else
I don't
stepped
feel
back
like
and you
I
stayed
know
there. Yeah.
much.
So we hit the airport on Sunday morning leaving Denver. Denver's a massive airport, maybe one of the biggest in the nation.
Is that the one you have to get on the train to go to the next terminal?
I think it is
Yes.
the biggest U.S. airport.
It's one of the few left that you can smoke in.
All
Oh, really?
right.
Love going through Denver.
So we were traveling. Max Pata had left earlier in the morning because he had his whole trials and tribulations with flights out to Denver as well.
boy.
But Mike dutifully got up early after we got back late, maybe 1 a.m. Max Pata, you had a little pizza odyssey we can get into as well on Saturday. But Mike went and scurried Chris away to the airport for an early flight, checked some bags, had some issues with that as well. And then hustled back to pick us up, to pick Sonny and I up to go to the airport about 9:30 in the morning. And then we're going to drop off the rental car and jump in the shuttle and blah, blah, blah.
2 runs.
When we got to the airport, started to head down into the TSA checkpoint. The way the Denver airport is you do it on an upper deck and then you go down into the checkpoint, the TSA checkpoint. But you can definitely survey what's going on down there because you have the high
The
ground.
advantage,
And as
yeah.
you come down, it was just a sea of humanity. Evidently, with the Denver airport, everyone just passes through one local universal TSA, and everyone is there. And so we were not running late, but we were doing what we normally do.
No time to dawdle.
Cutting it a little bit close. And when we saw this giant airport line, we're like, oh boy, that doesn't bode well for us. Because then once you get through, you have to walk through a bunch of tunnels and you have to get on a shuttle, a train, and take the train, the underground, the subway to the next terminal. And we're pretty far away from our terminal, so we're worried about that. But when we got down and turned the corner, we were happy to see Clear.
Oh,
So we have Clear
Gotta
there
have
in Denver. And so I'm a Clear member, and Mike's a Clear member, and Sonny is traveling with me as a minor.
Right.
So it should be okay.
So
De facto.
They pushed me and Tessa through because
Turn-
she obviously doesn't have an account.
turned the corner, walked right into the Clear thing, did the eye scan thing, got checked off. Mike did his thing. We both got checked off. Then the Clear attendant was saying to Sonny, how old are you? Now, my first impulse as a parent is to lie.
Always.
You know what I mean? You always got to
Yeah.
lie.
Sure.
Shave
And
2 years off.
You always go down.
Yes.
You always go down to getting into the movie theater,
Yep.
the zoo, or
Yep.
wherever it is.
Sonny's 6 feet tall. Is like, I'm 8.5.
Well, you got to do 12 because 12 is generally the cutoff.
Oh, boy, is it.
Oh, no.
So...
Just for everything. For the kids menu, for everything.
Yeah, the guy just said to Sonny, how old are you? And he went 15, and my initial impulse is to don't give out any information. Yeah,
Kick his shin.
it's like when you go to the DMV to register a car, and they go, "Has the car been operable operable for the last?" And you go, "I don't know. Is that good? Like, is it cheaper if it
What happens
wasn't?"
if I say no?
Right.
Right. So, Sonny just said 15. And the guy just wrote 15 on his thing, and I paused for a second, like, "Who is that? What's that mean?" But then I thought, "No, wait a minute. He's a minor, and I'm his adult.
Right,
I'm the
your
adult,
guardian.
his guardian, and I'm Clear. So he goes where I go. So he goes, all right, 15 it is. He writes on the thing. He shepherds us over to the TSA guy, and he hands us over to him. TSA guy, 28-year-old Hispanic guy, perhaps. He just looks at the ticket and he goes, he's 15? And the guy goes, yeah. And he goes, well, you can't come through here.
Oh, boy.
And the clear guy goes, oh, well, he's just a minor and he's traveling with his dad. And he goes, yeah, but we're cutting it off at 12.
Oh.
Arbitrarily?
Yep. That's the number because it doesn't have the word teen in it. So that they always do that.
Weird.
So we go, well, I don't understand. He's a minor.
Right.
He's with me. I'm his guardian. We're traveling together. I'm clear. Mike's clear. No. The guy's just like, not going to let him through. And the clear guy's like, when did that change? And he's like, oh, it just changed.
Yeah.
Which is always great.
Always.
As soon as you walked out.
Yeah.
So, of course, Mike is like, just let us through. Just let us through. And the guy's like, no.
That always works well at TSA.
Not going to do that. And then we step back and we have our guy from Clear and he's like, yeah, he starts mumbling something about pre-check, like maybe he fell off the pre-check or something. And I said, what do you mean pre-check? He's not pre-check. We're clear. What's pre-check? And he's like, well, maybe he came off a pre-check or something. And now Mike's starting to raise his voice a little bit.
Boy.
Like, what's going on? Why can't we go through here? I don't get what. Tell that guy we're going through.
He's about to wrestle someone to the ground.
Well, right at that time, the guy who wouldn't let us through, 28-year-old Hispanic guy, is replaced with 25-year-old woman of color.
Okay.
They swapped them out. And Mike goes, okay,
new chance.
we got a new person here.
Yeah.
Just let us through. And Mike starts like marching to the front of the line. The clear guy, who's like a 65-year-old guy, looked a little befuddled and confused. He announces, "I'm in charge," because Mike had taken his job essentially, and so Mike's like,
I'm your advocate.
Mike's like, we got a new gal in here. She's gonna just go, because that's the science of it, right?
Right.
She's not gonna know what the fuck
There's no
the
rhyme or
rules
reason,
are
yeah.
or whatever. For some reason, this guy took a fucking stance on 12. Also, it's why I could never do TSA, because I'd just be looking at the dad and his teenage son, and how could you ever be called out or reprimanded? Just say, go through.
Not just
Go through.
TSA, but I hate that about all customer service. You get a different answer from a different person.
Every time.
So why isn't the answer just the answer?
Right, and also 12, 15, it's a minor who's a company,
what's
an
the difference
adult.
does it make?
I don't know what it means. So
new gal.
So new gal, and Mike is going, we're going to hit this with the new gal, and our clear guy's like, no, you're not. No, you're not. I'm in charge.
Oh, wow.
So Mike goes, well,
Weird hill to die on, but okay.
What are we doing then? And he's like, you just got to go back through the main.
What?
Go back in General Pop.
Wait, he was advocating for you.
And Mike's like, we're not going to make our flight. What's going on? What do you mean we're going to go? He's accompanying a minor. He's just going to go through TSA with his dad, Now, I get that clear is clear, but what the fuck changes at the TSA?
Yeah.
Why is the TSA? Why is it 12 over here and then 18 or under?
Yeah.
So
under 18 in the General Pop?
Is it because Clear is like a third-party private thing, and TSA has the word security in it?
It is, but TSA is still the TSA. Like, they should have the exact same criteria for this one versus that one that's 30 feet away.
Right.
So we're sitting there. I told Chris, look up what is Clear, what's online with Clear.
Can my children use Clear? Oh, I can't read that.
Or Maxapat will read it, or
old.
Gina will read it.
Children under 18 can go through the Clear lane for free when accompanied by a Clear member. No need to add those under 18 to your account.
Well, like you alluded to, so Clear is a third party. They're a private company. Of course, they're the ones who are like, right this way, sir. We'll walk you to the front. Anything you want. Your kid can go with you. And TSA is fucking TSA. So they're like, no, 12. We decided on 12. Might be 11 in
And
next
what if
hour.
they say, technically, we did let you through. We're clear. We let you through.
But it wouldn't be 12 with the General Pop, otherwise
Meaning
kids. Well, my argument is, I get your argument, which I agree with, which is Clear is clear. They're an outside contractor.
Yeah, they're there to make the customer happy.
The TSA has rules, so the Clear couldn't go, our policies, you can travel with a machete.
Right.
But TSA has their own policy.
yes.
And their own policy is no going through over 12. But it's no going through Clear over 12. It's not going through the airport over
that's
12, because I'm going to have to go through the next TSA checkpoint, which is
Well, that's
manned by this
interesting.
guy's buddy 30 feet over, and
Right.
he's going to walk us right through as soon as we wait in this humongous
Yeah,
line.
the point is moot because he's got to go through security either way.
Right.
Why do they
So
care if you? What do they care how you get there?
Mike is arguing,
really good point.
or why are they changing their policy from this? Because once you get to TSA, you're at TSA. Whether you got there through Clear or whether you got there through the general
Right.
pop line.
It's done.
This is okay. My guess, and this doesn't make much sense, but I think this is my guess. He being the Clear guy, brought you to the TSA pre-check line. You know what I mean? And for some reason,
Or the Clear line.
no, there's no Clear line.
Oh, it's just the pre-check line.
He brings you, depending on whether you have pre-check or not, he cuts the line. He either cuts the line at general
Right.
pop or pre-check. My guess is he brought you to pre-check, and for some reason, that agent said no one over 12.
Right.
It doesn't
Well,
make
now,
any sense, but that's my
miraculously,
guess.
the last duty that guy performed before heading to the locker room to rub one out, that agent, the last thing he did was fuck us up royally, and then he literally just got up and left.
I've done my job.
And now
Mic drop.
we have fresh blood, and Mike is going nuts because we want to just try it again with the
Right.
fresh blood.
Now Clear has turned on you.
Our Clear guy would have nothing to do with it.
That's weird.
He's giving some pre-check story that Mike and I don't understand, and then he's pointing us to the back of the general pop line, which is a mass of humanity.
Basically saying you have Clear, but you don't have pre-check.
Right. So, all right. So Mike and I are like going, what are we doing? What's going on? Now, another Clear guy, young gentleman of color, friendly, comes up and says, there's another Clear on the other side.
Oh.
Denver has two
chance.
Clears. You can get around the general pop, and there's another Clear. Just go to that one.
Okay.
Of course, I'm saying, well, I don't get what's different about that one.
Don't
We're
ask
A new
just
questions.
chance.
Clear.
It's a new chance.
And he's going, just go to the other Clear. Now, our guy who's telling us just go back in general pop and stand in line says nothing of the other Clear. And I've never experienced two Clears in an airport, so I'm not thinking we're going to go use another Clear.
Where are you, Denver or LAX?
We're in Denver.
Okay.
So we're trying to get home. So he then says, go to the other Clear. The other guy says, probably doesn't have a great relationship with the older guy who's now raising his voice because Mike's raising his voice. And we go, fine. And we start going around general pop to the other Clear. But at some point, we can't get to it. So a guy like lifts a rope up and we start walking through, and then we just get caught up in a stream, and some guy goes, go ahead, two at a time, Shredder, and we ended up just cutting the line of the general pop
Look at you.
and getting through. I don't know how anything works. I don't know what the fucking 12 thing
Why do we
is.
have lines?
Why do we have all these lines? What are the rules? What's so different about this fucking place? I would be curious, Max, about it with the TSA. Must have some pre-check something, or this guy was just a fucking
asshole.
idiot.
Yeah.
That's more likely.
Knew
Yeah.
nothing, and we definitely could have got through with his
Right.
cohort, who seemed friendly, but we weren't going to get another bite of that apple.
Which is
Yeah.
weird because Clear, in my experience, is very customer service oriented. They'll escort you, they'll
They-
hold your hand.
He
They
tried.
completely are
And then he backed
until he
off.
ran into
That's
the TSA
weird.
guy who would not let us through, and then he just completely said, "There's nothing I can do."
folded.
Yeah,
So TSA pre-check is 12 and under. So if any travelers 13 and older who don't have TSA pre-check must go through standard security lanes.
so
But he
that's
still should have gotten you to the front of that line. You're a Clear customer.
yeah. Well, Mike yelled at him, and
That'll show him.
he was done.
Wow.
So that was that
Ooh.
weird trial and
So
tribulation.
You did make that flight somehow.
We did make that flight, and then we were on that flight, and I was sitting next to Mike, and Mike pulled out his giant Costco box of mixed nuts, the huge tub of mixed nuts. And then Mike,
Gotta have it.
what Mike does is he just grazes. So he pulls the mask down and just sits there and
Constantly.
just eats nuts the
Constant
entire
grazing.
time, and then jerky as well. And so we were doing that. Now, I think we flew Delta out.
United.
United out. United, interestingly enough, because I've been traveling throughout the pandemic, has tripled down their mask mandates.
Really?
They during the pandemic a year ago, they told you to wear a mask, but they were a little bit fast and loose.
Mm-hmm.
Mike and I got warned 31 times to
Really?
pull it up because
Wow.
I'm bad, and Mike's probably worse at the mask on the plane. So we got reprimanded constantly. Sonny got reprimanded. Me, Sonny, Mike. It was the trifecta of bad mask wearers, and we're told a million times, pull the thing up, pull it up. And then as we were landing, they came by and they dropped off this little doodad from United.
That?
It's a reminder. It's a little pamphlet written in 14 languages. Reminder: travelers are required by federal law to wear face masks. So I was sitting against the window, and they just handed it to me. We're sort of right behind first class, and at a certain point, I said, "Oh my God, they're going nuts on this stuff. They told everyone 1,000 times. Now they're giving everyone a pamphlet." And he's like, "They didn't give everyone a pamphlet." And I was like,
"Oh, you got the shaming pamphlet."
I was
the
like,
dunce cap.
They didn't give everyone. No, we're the only people on the plane who got the pamphlet. Me and Mike. And I was like, it says U.S. federal law requires all customers, except for children younger than two, to wear a mask. To wear face masks that conforms to government regulations or CDC guidelines. By the way, this shit that was balled up in our sweatpants mask, the throwaway fucking
the blue one.
mask with a cashew dust all over it. I don't know that conforms to any sanctioning body of masks. It conforms to nothing. But either way, masks must be fully cover the nose and mouth while in the airport, in airport lounges, and on prolonged periods eating. So they were doing the thing where pull it down, pop a nut, pull it back up, pull it down. We weren't going to dance
Actually,
with the retards, so we didn't do that.
No, that I just realized that's a great way for me to eat.
Oh, yeah.
Because then you're not just constantly
yes.
with the
conscious eating.
Yeah, that's real good. I might need to adopt that when this is all over.
Until your timing's off and you eat your mask.
Better or worse, passive-aggressive move, getting handed this pamphlet or being the one person to get up and go to the bathroom and have it get on and say, just a reminder to everyone that
Right.
Bud Light is on. I was like, yes, I know you're talking about me.
Yeah. In this case, I wasn't shamed because I thought we were at the front and I thought they were handing it to everyone. Mike explained we should be shamed.
This is your yellow card.
Yes, fines up to $35,000 in criminal prosecution if you do not comply.
I'd want airline miles for that.
So that was funny.
Wow.
The thing that was interesting about Burbank Airport is every human in the Burbank Airport was wearing a mask, but they do not require masks. But they do require masks through security. So Mike, Sonny, and I, who were the only human beings without a mask who were waiting in the front of the security line, were told when you pass through security, you must rock the mask. Once you get through it, you do not. I think most, and I say most, I mean everyone but me, Mike, and Sonny took the mask off as soon as we went through security. But the Burbank Airport, different than the Denver Airport. The Denver Airport was you wear a mask and you keep it on
throughout
for the entirety of your trip inside this airport. The Burbank Airport, now Chris can look it up, but we were told you just have to put it on when you go through security. So that's my
you'll
mask
cluster
update.
together.
Well, also
Although everyone in line is clustered together as well.
Like
it's more
cattle.
just it's retarded theater. Let's fucking call it what it is.
It's security theater. But I don't know if you've noticed around here, that our mask
By the way,
mandates are loosening.
I should say same security line where Mike August, we always go through Southwest. We go to that terminal. This is United side. That's the side where Mike's uninterrupted 9-year run of carrying a box cutter in his backpack was interrupted after traveling with the same box cutter.
Is there a plaque memorializing?
Yeah.
There should be. The same weapon used by the 9/11 terrorists.
Yeah.
Mike traveled with a box cutter for almost probably 8 or 9 years after 9/11 and finally got snagged going through that security. Mike, being the American that he is, promptly bought a new box cutter, threw it back into his bag once we went through security, and has now traveled that way ever since.
Speaking of theater, how many boxes is he opening on the road? Or is that just, hey, I got this through?
I think it's a combo. I think it's a combo because I've questioned his need for the box cutters on the other side. He says he uses it, but I think it's more of a statement.
Yeah.
There are things that could be provided when you got to the other
like
side.
a butter knife.
I don't know, guys. guys.
That's a security blankie.
Chris, does the merch travel in bags or like clamshell things or in actual boxes with tape?
We bring like a big suitcase. And
Thank you.
Okay.
No.
Brian rests his case.
Thank you.
How many boxes did we bring back?
Well, bring him back because we shipped a bunch of boxes over there because VIP ticket members got Adam's new book, but we had to fly back with them this time.
I think the question is, was there anything for August to open with a box cutter when you arrived in Colorado?
If he opened the books of boxes that we shipped there, then sure.
Club doesn't have scissors?
That's what I say. They don't have a butter knife?
It's 100% theater. Just say what it is.
Oh, no, I'm saying Mike said to me, I use this thing.
Well, I know. I'm asking
it's
you to
also
use your critical
theater.
reasoning skills.
No, he uses it.
Oh, my God.
Well, he uses it, but
But he could use something else.
yes, he could use something else, but he's not doing it. He's not carrying around a pork chop into a synagogue. Although Mike would eat the pork chop,
Yeah,
but
it
wouldn't make
what
it.
I'm saying is
On the Sabbath.
he didn't start carrying the box cutter as a defiant move
Right.
for the TSA. He always carries it.
It's his security binky box cutter.
Yes, if this is a court of law, he would not be guilty because he actually carried the box cutter, whatever.
Do you think he packed it in his suitcase on September 10th, 2001?
September 10th, he has always traditionally carried this box cutter.
I'm sure
he didn't stop because of 9/11, but he always he carried it. But he's grandfathered in.
I see.
What I'm saying.
From cold dead hands.
Yes,
holds it up.
it's both a statement and he
Functional.
travels with it and did travel with it. He didn't start because of 9/11.
Crocodile Dundee.
Although we can drill down on that.
I think he would answer that honestly. I don't think he would lie about that. We can find out if he
Get
uses
Mike
a
on the
box
phone
Yeah, I
and
was gonna say,
see when he started carrying the box cutter.
So while we're doing that, when you go to grocery stores and stuff now in LA, the person, at least I've been looking for, is the seal breaker. Because June 15th, everything
You got a
opens
box
up.
cutter, you break that
That's
seal.
right.
That's exactly right. So I went in Ralph's and I kind of had, trepidatiously had my mask kind of around my chin, and everyone else had their mask up. I was like, oh, maybe this is a private, establishment that you have to put. So I put it back up. But then I saw a mom walking around with no mask, and I was like, oh, so here we are. So I took mine off. So always look for that seal breaker or be the seal breaker. But I felt totally comfortable being one of two people in a very crowded grocery store with no mask because apparently there's a seal breaker. So no problem.
Oh, you need that first brave Chinese person
right.
that's standing in front of that tank in Tiananmen Square.
That's right.
All right, so we'll see if Mike, we'll get him on the phone and we'll see if he traveled with his box cutter before. So
Pre-9/11.
do not expect
A
there to
satisfying
be...
answer.
No, not that.
Oh, sorry.
A clear connection.
Oh, right.
I've
only
not
have
been
him on
able
for
to
like 4
speak to
seconds.
Mike on the phone, and I've never got a clear connection. Mike August?
Until now.
Yes, until now.
Yeah.
All right, now...
Count to 10 and I'll be gone.
Your box cutter. You're traveling with the
Yeah.
box cutter. Were you traveling with it before 9/11, or is this as a protest to 9/11?
Oh,
no.
shit.
Oh, yeah, this was No. It wasn't a test for 9/11. It was just we started traveling and doing live shows, and I needed, something to cut into stuff. So I put a box cutter in my, my carry-on backpack. Literally for years, we went years with that thing.
How much?
I forgot it was in there.
How much of this is a thumbing
You
the
forgot
nose?
it was in there. You used it every time you travel.
How much of it is a thumbing of the nose
to the man
to the man versus a practical application?
Both. It was both. Because every time we go through, I put it through the machine, just saying, is it ever going to get flagged? Because they flag you for all kinds of ridiculous stuff. And it's never the same thing twice. It's always this little bottle of cough medicine or something metal or something electronic. It was never, ever. The box cutter sailed through 100 times.
How many years
Literally
of
100
box
times.
cutter
Years.
travel?
Like at least 5 years.
Now, to be fair to me, Brian, I questioned Mike. I was like, I don't get why you need a box cutter
No,
where
you're
we're
right
going.
to do that, yeah.
Yes.
There's a bit of Freudian slip there, which is I forgot it was in there. Adam, you do minimum one show a month, live show, where the box cutter would be needed to open merch. If that was the case, you would never forget it was in there. You'd be using it minimum once a month.
Brian, the subtext of what Brian's saying is you're just a dick.
No.
And you had no reason to carry a box cutter.
Sure, whatever.
You can't offend this
But
guy.
a Swiss Army knife would work.
But they wouldn't let you bring a Swiss Army knife.
You can't get a Swiss Army knife through that. They would flag.
But you could ship a Swiss Army knife ahead of you. No, you couldn't get through with that. But what's the percentage of times you use the box cutter when we get to the destination?
1 out of 20 times. Very rare. I literally forgot it was in there.
Best day of my life.
So validating. And
So
vindicating.
Bryan is saying you do it simply to thumb your nose at the TSA.
No, I mean I've always known it was in there, but I would forget trip to trip that it was in there. But every once in a while, I'd say to you, once again, it just sailed through. It's all theater, all this TSA garbage.
Right.
All
right.
Now, same thing the terrorists had.
How soon did you replace the box cutter, and have you been traveling with it since?
No, remember that time we were in Burbank, of all places, because we go through Southwest on the Burbank side of the airport every time, never a problem. The one time we flew like United, which is the other portal of the Burbank airport, that one time in TSA, it got flagged after 5 years of travel.
But
and I'm like, well, I guess the scam is over.
You never replied. I thought you replaced it.
No, because it was like, what's the use now? I think they changed the sensitivity, or they
At the time, you vowed to return. At the time,
victorious.
You said you were going to return with a new box cutter.
But I probably did, and then I'm like, why bother?
Oh, okay. All right.
Why bother?
So how could you ever get the packages open now?
Yeah, now what?
How does that work?
I use my tape.
Use your
I'm
what?
A hero.
Oh, keys. I will say this, speaking of Mike being a hero, we had Bryan, I don't know why you're doing a victory lap. I said he's doing it to thumb his nose at the TSA, but he did travel with it initially as a point of functional tool. That's
not people heard what they heard.
He didn't put it in there to fuck with the TSA.
Is it 5% of the time?
I put it in there for its use, and then I would constantly remark, how come this isn't getting flagged? When they flag 18 different things, 18 different times. Why is the very tool that the terrorists used on 9/11 to take over the jets not
This is why
flagged? It took 5 years.
This is why in the law there's a difference between murder one and manslaughter.
Right.
This is a manslaughter case. All right. Speaking of that, we had a cake delivered. You ever get a picture of that, Max Spada? Oh, you did.
Oh,
we had
in Colorado, the gay cake.
Yeah,
gay cake.
We got a gay cake. We got the Masterpiece cake baker over there. Heard me talking about him in the first show.
Is this the cake baker?
On Friday. This is the cake baker who's going through all the litigation and everything else.
So this is a very
Supreme
not gay
Court
cake
guy.
Right. He delivered.
The least gay cake.
He sent a cake back.
Okay.
But I have an observation.
I gotta see this cake.
The cake was wonderful. It was a lemon custard.
Ooh.
Was it a lemon custard cake,
That sounds
Mike?
delightful.
Lemon
This
torch.
cake, Gina, this cake was so good. You take one bite and you go, oh, I realize why the gay people sued him.
Yeah.
You'd sue over this cake.
That's
It was
right.
so good.
It's suable.
To be denied this cake, we're going to
Wow.
Yes, that's true.
It was awesome.
So this
It was
is
awesome.
the anti-gay cake.
This is the anti-gay cake.
Okay.
So, but here's what I've realized. It's a problem with cakes.
I gotta see this cake. Oh, baby.
Yeah, it says Ace Man on it.
I couldn't get it said thanks, Aceman, but August dug into it before I could picture the whole
And look,
thing.
it's cut with a box cutter.
He said, now they gave us the cake spatula. But now here, and they sectioned it off.
I wish I'd had a box cutter.
They cut the whole thing up. But here's what I've realized. It was an unmitigated disaster getting the cake slices out in one piece. Mike got the top layer off.
Oh, yeah, because you have to take down the
People are
box.
eating with the hands.
That's why.
People don't collapse the walls of the box.
You have to.
You have to. So
They're meant to. Look, they're
they're
tabbed.
meant to, but people start digging in and they start eating the cake
Bad
from
idea.
inside of the box.
Boo.
And the cake
Animals.
we couldn't get one
You need
full
leverage underneath.
slice out of there.
Got to
But
come at it 90 degrees.
Yeah.
But Mike was still able to eat 2.5 pieces, but but one handful at a time because we never opened the box. The moral of the story
That's insane.
if you're not going to eat the cake,
I'm now gay.
keep walking. if you are going to eat the cake, you got to take it out of the box.
Yeah.
Or collapse the walls of the box. None of us thought to do it. Everyone just ate it out of the box.
Boy, especially that first piece, you have no chance.
Nobody got a piece out. Nobody got a whole piece out. But
that
it was
looks
excellent.
like an unbelievable, like lemon yellow buttercream frosting with a really moist yellow cake inside.
It was so moist. It didn't even need ice cream. It was so moist.
Oh,
you know, it was just one of these, literally one of the best cakes you'll ever have in your life. You got to go
Unless
get that
you're
guy's cake.
It was
get a
awesome.
lawyer if he won't give it to you.
I can see why it's so good. So coveted.
All right, Mike. Thank you.
We talk about our hilarious onslaught of TSA.
Oh, we did. We did.
First 20 minutes of the show. First 20 minutes.
We fought our way into the airport through TSA and then had to fight our way to stay on the plane.
Oh,
Literally.
yeah. Well,
I thought
Mike.
we were going to get dropped in Albuquerque.
You
All right,
guys.
Mike. Once again, thanks for your candor.
Yes. You're welcome.
All right. Let's see. I got
Good connection.
a spot. I know that was a crazy connection. I was talking to Mike before the show, and I couldn't hear a goddamn word he was saying.
I guess the scam is over.
Tommy, yes.
When I called him, I couldn't hear him at all. Like his dogs are barking. I'm like, Mike, we got to talk to him. He's like, okay, I got it. And then
He must be standing on his roof.
It's a game time player.
I will tell you guys about Tommy John this summer. Soak up the sun, not your sweat. Tommy John, cool cotton fabric, 2 to 3 times cooler than regular cotton. Get a brand new pair of Tommy John underwear. Let your buns breathe, everyone. Dozens of comfort innovations like breathable, lightweight, moisture-wicking fabric with 4 times the stretch of competing brands. Once you try Tommy John underwear, you're never going back. I'm wearing mine right now, especially during the summer, especially if you're out walking the dog or working out or jogging. You got to have the Tommy John. They don't have customers. They have fanatics. It's the best pair you'll ever wear, or it's free. Guaranteed. Tommy John, right, Dawson?
Right now, get 20% off your first order at TommyJohn.com/Adam. Go to TommyJohn.com/Adam for 20% off. TommyJohn.com/Adam. See site for details.
All right, we'll take a quick break. Come back with Gina and the news right after this.
Give me the news with Grad. News with Gina Grad. Breaking viral. Weird crime, protest, politics. Give me news with Gina Grad. Stuff they saw on TMZ. Joe Biden. Kamala. Meet news with Gina Grad.
The news with Gina Grad.
Quick question I just thought about with this whole clear TSA Michigas. Because Sonny's very chill and he also doesn't like, a lot of the physically dangerous stuff. Does he get really nervous around confrontation?
No.
Did that freak him out?
He just stands there. He's fine. I was nervous because Mike was raising his voice, and I've
He's going to airport jail.
I've been detained in an airport
Okay.
for raising my voice.
Yeah.
I was waiting for the guy who had an ass full of Mike to wave in the security, and once that domino falls, there's no discussion. There's no.
It's over.
It's a protocol at that point.
And
So-
I was the kind of kid where that kind of thing would really devastate me. I'd get really uncomfortable and just really freaked out. But Sonny's not like that.
No, he has that kind of low resting pulse that I have.
He's dying inside.
Good, good.
The thing about clear and pre-check, if you're smart, you get both, is it's whatever it is a year. I don't know, $150, $200 for both a year, whatever it is. It's worth it. Not every time, because every time you're saving 2 minutes, maybe 2.5 minutes, whatever it is. It's that one time when the airport's fucked and you need to get to the front of the line. Maybe you're late. Maybe it's a crazy day. Whatever it is. That one time, it's like I would pay $200 to be the front of this line.
I was thinking about the old story of us going through Burbank, which didn't have clear. Then us going to the sports bar, had a gig in San Francisco area. We're flying into the San Francisco airport. $50,000. It was like 2 shows at an Indian casino and a bunch of cash. It was going to be a great weekend moneymaker is going to leave on Saturday afternoon and come back Sunday morning. That's the time when I set my backpack down behind me.
Oh, that's right.
At the sports bar, and everyone is trained at the wall of screens watching the games, and the TSA guy came up behind me, took my bag, and left. Did not ask everyone who was facing the other direction.
People who are nearby.
Somebody's bag, the bag that went through security. That's why it was with me. It made it. He took it, went back to the sheriff's substation outside of the airport.
That's so fucked up.
Yeah.
And then just sat there. And then everyone got up to go get on the plane. And, we don't get up to wait in line a half hour earlier. It's like, all right, row C's going, all right, here we go. Finish your beer. I just turn around, gone. And I was like, well, did someone steal my bag? Because they don't tell you they took it. They just take it.
It's unattended as far as they're concerned.
There's no tag like missing your bag.
So then there was a bag taken. Oh, it was that story. No, it was another story. Sorry. Exact same thing, but I didn't have my ID and was going to miss the flight for another expensive whatever to the Bay Area. Point is this. I think my ID may have been in the bag. Maybe my wallet was in my backpack. Either way, they did this thing where they said, and this is why you guys should check who has clear. Burbank doesn't have clear.
You're right.
And the rule is you could have got some paperwork to go through. If you leave your wallet at home, and you can go through, but in a 24-hour period, you can't go through again.
Okay.
And we were coming back a little outside. You can go through again in a 24-hour period, but not outside of a 20. But what they didn't say is the airport we're coming back from has clear.
All you need is your eyeball.
I wouldn't have needed it, so I canceled this expensive trip.
Yep.
But we could have had clear. It's always a guessing match as to which airport has it and which doesn't. Somebody
seems worth it.
There's got to be an app or something, Brian. Doesn't
Well, it's
there?
on the Clear website. I don't know how often. I don't know how frequently it's updated. Like if they just added Burbank, they'll put it up that day. You know what I mean? But it's on the Clear website.
It's worth a look.
I thought I was a badass just for having TSA pre. Is that like for the hoi polloi now?
That's your basic
the global entry
level.
The other thing that I was curious about that doesn't seem to exist, but maybe people will listen and tell us. So Max Pata left out of Burbank early on Friday, said it was a complete clusterfuck. He said, this place is a mess. You guys got to get here early. It is a disaster.
Busiest I've ever seen it.
And LAX has been as busy as I've ever seen it the last few times I went through there. So now Chris went through at 9 in the morning.
7.
7 in the morning. We're going through at 1:30. So I kept saying to the Porcelain Punisher, well, go on whatever and check the thing and see if it's crowded. Oh, no, I said check with Brian.
That's why he texted me. He's like, hey, you know anything about like a site or an app that can tell you how busy an airport is? I'm like, there's a couple, but they're not accurate.
It's like mouse weight at Disneyland.
Yeah,
well, the way it works is they do it like the Farmer's Almanac.
Right.
They go, this
Technically.
date of a year, 1 year ago, here's how crowded it was. But that wouldn't explain the pandemic and all the stuff that's going on.
Totally.
So I said, there's got to be one of those stupid cameras, like the owl camera, where they just fix it on the owl's
live
net.
stream.
Just put your fucking Ring doorbell up on the roof of Burbank, and let me just see how much traffic is pouring into that place. I don't need head counts. Same with LAX or Burbank or any airport. Once you see the throng of cars like Paul, you go, oh, it's a clusterfuck. We got to leave. We got to leave early. Evidently,
can't be done.
This does not exist.
Wow.
I don't know why
It'd be
it
so
doesn't.
easy.
It would
so easy.
It would be so easy.
Surfers do it. They can watch the ocean.
That's right. You can see if baby owl eggs have hatched.
Shouldn't there just be the camera up there?
Yes.
And in Burbank, it'd be easy. Just train it down the one main thoroughfare that leads, and if it was all backed up, you'd know to leave early.
Yep.
All right. Sorry, we're worried.
All right. Well, weightlifter Laurel Hubbard will become the first transgender athlete to compete at the Olympics after being selected by New Zealand for the women's event at the Tokyo Games. A decision set to reignite a debate over including this and fairness in sports, according to Reuters. Hubbard will compete in the super heavyweight 87 plus kilogram category.
Sounds hot.
Her selection made by possibly an update to qualifying requirements in May. 43 years old, the oldest lifter at the Games, had competed in men's weightlifting competition before transitioning in 2013. Hubbard has been eligible to compete since 2015, when the International Olympic Committee issued these guidelines. Now, here are the guidelines, because this is kind of the thing I think everybody wants to know.
No balls.
And allowing any transgender athlete to compete as a woman, provided their testosterone levels are below 10 nanomoles, whatever that is, per liter for at least 12 months before their first competition. But some scientists say the guidelines do little to mitigate the biological advantage of those who have already gone through puberty as males.
Well, all right. First off, anyone who's interested in transgendered sports should definitely tell this gal to pull a hammy walking up to the deadlift station, because this gal is going to win.
She wins gold.
And she's going to crush everyone else, and this is going to ignite this pushback, because then you're going to lose a lot of fans, because the women who are women's advocates are going to go, the chick who got the silver should have got the gold, and the one that never made the podium should have got the bronze, and it's going to cause an entire kerfuffle.
This is interesting, because essentially what you're saying is if Laurel Hubbard, this woman, loses, then everybody wins. Because now we're like, okay, no, it doesn't mean you're a shoo-in just because you're transgender.
The argument is simply you have an advantage over the ladies. And Laurel did not undergo this as a sophomore in high school.
Can we pull up a picture of Laurel Hubbard?
Laurel underwent this after competing as a male.
Right.
So, and I think may have smashed a record or two by now. It's a large woman there. Seems to have a pretty good build on her. Did she? Hey, Max Spada, I think she competed in wasn't New Zealand, but it was one of the Tasmanian.
She is from New Zealand.
She competed in a competition, and I think broke the record or bumped off the current record holder of New Zealand or something like that. So I think she's going to win.
This is so interesting, though. The more I think about it, when you said she should pull a hammy, if she does not take gold, then in a way that is a huge step forward for the trans athlete community.
Well, the only argument is they have an advantage over the females, and like we've talked about, the thought experiment is you go, oh, well, you're anti-trans, but no one is anti-female transitioning to male and then competing with males. So you're not anti that, you're anti-advantage or unlevel playing field. So, like
you say, why would anyone be penalized for smoking weed before a game?
Yeah, I think we realize if there's no competitive advantage, then most people are cool at it. So if she goes in and wins the gold, and I think that's the assumption, because weightlifting, and Chris can look into it, I haven't looked into that deep, it's not the same as basketball or football in that as a deadlifter, you have your deadlift. Your deadlift best is 427 pounds. That's it. We can also figure out what was good enough for gold in the deadlift last Olympic season, and if it's under 427, then we can assume you're gonna be able to lift your way to a championship. So somebody needs to get hold of her and say, go up there, try to lift 427 and don't make it. Yeah. And then everyone will point to her and go, there is no competitive advantage once you do this. You go in there and crush the competition, you're going to ruin it for everybody transitioning who wants to be an Olympic athlete. Because they're only going to point at this example and go, you see what
this would
happened.
Be a great movie.
I'm surprised there's not a rule like if you once competed as a fill in the blank, you can't then compete as a fill in the blank.
Why?
Well, because you already established that you are a male/female, whatever you are, lifter. So then why should you be able to compete then in another pool?
I know there's an age.
She set the junior record in 1998 in New Zealand before transitioning.
That's what I'm saying.
Right.
Did Caitlyn Jenner ever do an exhibition race after transitioning?
She's doing heels.
Brian, please.
I think this is a tougher one to argue because
of the direction.
Yeah, because the real argument is always, well, when I was 14, I already started the transition and I never grew into my male weightlifting body or whatever.
That's what some scientists are saying, that even if you keep your testosterone below the 10 nanomolars per liter, whatever that is, male puberty is a big advantage, and you can't unring that bell.
Male puberty is a guy who grew up shoehorned between Chris and Ray, whose male puberty just went off the chart.
To human pituitary glands.
I mean, yeah.
With feet.
All of a sudden, there's veins in everyone's arms and six-pack abs and ass kicking and huge strength advantages that I did not realize.
Right.
I mean, we just boom. It just goes.
But I'm thinking now of you talking about the older men get, the more chill they are because they don't have that testosterone. So we can see that some, huge like bruiser in high school or whatever is super mellow now. And in a way that pertains to this, right?
I guess. Chris, I'm just curious, did she compete as a woman and set any records or maybe you can find out what her best clean and jerk is or deadlift or something, and we'll figure out.
As far as record, I mean, she's won gold medals in at the Pacific Games in 2019 in Samoa, and she won a gold medal.
Samoa. That's what I was trying to think of.
At the 2020 World Cup in Rome.
Bodes well for her chances.
I am seeing like this fitness article saying that like the differences between men and women are very. There really aren't that much differences as far as weightlifting goes, except men might be a little less susceptible to injury. But other than that, I
would imagine the men records are much higher than the women's records.
Not according to Max Zapata.
He's reading.
There's got to be clean and jerk like Vasily Alexia or whatever from Russia. That guy clean and jerk like 550 pounds.
Yeah, I'm open to being proven wrong, but that just doesn't pass the sniff test.
Are you, man? Yeah, check into that.
It can be done, which is a very long shot.
I agree. I cannot believe that that's true. Although women could get real big, and they can. An average woman can lift a station wagon off her toddler.
That's true.
If need be.
So maybe just
what if
in
they
the
just show
deadlift.
the lifters like their kid being crushed?
Right.
Like,
Put the kid under those barbells. All right, we'll look into it, but it can't. What did Vasily Alexia put up?
Well, he's looking for that. In the interest of being fair, it's crazy that wouldn't the testosterone standards be biased again? Not biased, but eliminate women who just naturally had higher testosterone?
I guess, but maybe it couldn't be that high without some sort of supplemental testosterone. Anyway, we'll circle back.
I got Vasily's career best for the clean and jerk, 564 pounds.
Oh, I was way off my 550. Over his head? He put that over his head. The clean and jerk is over his
insane.
head. That's in
nuts.
1972. Vasily was probably juicing.
77.
Oh, 77. He was probably juicing as well.
Yeah, and then the clean and press, 521 pounds.
Is there deadlift?
What is the female?
No deadlift.
What is the record for the female clean and jerk? That's mine. Brian's point is it can't be 560, and he still has the record, I guess.
That's impressive.
I'd be shocked.
Russian guy. Maybe I saw him in the 72 Olympics, and maybe he set the record in 77. But do you remember that guy?
No.
Mm-mm.
Big wide world of sports guy. Big barreled guns, out there, just crazy Russian guy.
Just a bear.
Just a giant bear. 550 over your head.
That's a fucking absurd.
Oh, 560 over your head. Sorry. All right.
Don't cheat him.
Go ahead, Gina.
All right. In other sports news, Raiders defensive end Carl Nassib has become the first openly gay active NFL player after coming out in an Instagram video posted on June 21st. And it seems that he did set this date for a certain reason, at least the month of the year. I'll let him take it from here. Here's the video he posted on Instagram.
What's up, people? I'm Carl Nassib. I'm at my house here in Westchester, Pennsylvania. Just want to take a quick moment to say that I'm gay.
Prove it.
I've been meaning to do this for a while now, but I finally feel comfortable enough to get it off my chest. I really have the best life. I got the best family, friends, and job a guy could ask for. I'm a pretty private person, so I hope you guys know that I'm really not doing this for attention. I just think that representation and visibility are so important. I actually hope that like one day videos like this and the whole coming out process are just not necessary. But until then, I'm going to do my best and do my part to cultivate a culture that's accepting, that's compassionate. And I'm going to start by donating $100,000 to the Trevor Project. They're an incredible organization. They're the #1 suicide prevention service for LGBTQ youth in America. And they're truly doing incredible things. And I'm very excited to be a part of it, to help in any way that I can. And I'm really pumped to see what the future holds. That's all I have for you guys. I hope you have a great day. Work hard.
Off the stage, fag! How fast are all the agents represented from all their clients who graduated from Florida State going, do not send a tweet out. Do not comment.
Whatever you do.
I'm just going to congratulate. Don't do it. Just nothing.
Yeah.
No comment.
Yeah.
Do not say a goddamn thing. Flanker from Florida State has been in the league for 2 years. You will fucking end your career. Don't say
You're
a
right.
thing.
Shut the fuck up.
Right.
Although various NFL verified Twitter, I don't know if it's like, NFL West Coast or whatever, are tweeting their support and, we're so proud of you and whatever. And so, yeah, let them do the tweeting.
Do not say a thing. Clean and jerk for women, surprisingly, $425.
Damn.
Male's record is $586, though, so it's over 150 pounds more. So there's an advantage to being a dude. I don't know about the dad and other things, but I do think that this person, this gal from Australia, may win this gold and
She might
it's going
crush
to
it.
fuck everything up.
Yeah. This is very interesting. I think there will be a movie about this. This is very everything rests on your shoulders. Do I throw it? Do I not throw it? This is really interesting.
Charlize Theron, you got to put on even more weight
Yeah.
for this role, baby.
Eileen Warno's who?
Yes.
Do you guys remember Hard Knocks a couple years ago? Carl Nassib was the guy who explained compound interest to his teammates.
Oh, is
Really?
that
This
him?
guy.
Oh, man.
Pretty
Love
sharp
this guy.
dude.
Yeah.
And everyone, I think a lot of the articles referred to Michael Sam
Yeah.
but he didn't
He never
play.
played outside the precinct.
He made like the Taxi Squad or
Right.
something, but he didn't play.
And
in the
this is the Raiders who, they
Barely a
they look
team.
like Juggalos. They're pretty hardcore fans.
Well, a cosplay.
Oh, that's going to be interesting.
I'm saying, are they cool? Are
The
they going to
Bud
be
Raiders, am I right?
cool? Oh, come on, Ryan, please.
I think in the New World Order, you're either cool or you must act as if you're cool because everyone's going to be filming everyone.
Right.
That's true.
And that would be if they start booing or
Right.
or whatever.
And it's 2021. I mean, this isn't like, your buddies in the foxhole like in the 50s. Like, grow up. Go play.
Also, may have been a smart tactical move because maybe he was on the bubble.
Oh, yeah.
You cannot cut.
cut me
Oh,
now.
good luck.
Wow.
Good luck cutting
Rudy
that guy.
snaps his pencil in half.
Yeah.
Wow.
I don't know. He's traveled around the league a little bit, I think.
Yeah, he was with the Browns or whatever it was in the Hard Knocks.
And I saw a
Interesting.
picture of him in another, maybe a Panthers uniform. I can't remember, but
He's a jobber.
if he's a jobber and a journeyman,
Smart. He's
he
crazy like
could have
Fox.
been on the bubble. And if you're on the bubble, no way.
And best $100,000 he ever spent donating to such a worthy cause.
Imagine trying to cut him.
Can't do it.
Can't be done.
Can't do it.
Wow. Mm-hmm. So let's move on
There's
over.
a lot of gay strategy and a lot of alternative life strategy in the show. I feel like this was a tactical move
You're right.
by him.
Yep.
Yeah, did he start? He didn't. Did he start Max Zapata?
I think so. I think he's a decent
Played
enough player.
for the Browns. Oh, and the Buccaneers. And we'll see if he started last year. But anyway.
Okay. Well, let's keep the theme rolling just one more time. Over the weekend, Sesame Street introduced a family with two dads. This special episode debuted
Just
during
now?
2021
That's shocking.
during Pride Month and just ahead of Father's Day. In the episode titled Family Day, gay dads Frank and Dave attend a party with their daughter Mia. And remember, because when you think of Muppets, you think, well, are they human or are they Muppet? They were human, so nobody really had to spend money constructing these guys. So I don't know if they're sticking around. But Sesame Street has also added Wes and Elijah. They're a black dad and son. Then they come on now to talk about race. Sesame Workshop released a few other videos too, explaining celebrating different races. There's a music video. There's an episode where Muppets cope with a racist incident at a grocery store.
So awesome.
But here's a clip of Wes and Elijah talking to their buddy Elmo about melanin and skin color.
The color of our skin is an important part of who we are.
Really?
But we should all know that it's okay that we all look different in so very many ways.
Well, which is it? Is it important? Is it
Elmo's
not
red.
important?
It's red and soft. Oh, and my hair is black and curly.
Things on the outside, like our skin color, our hair texture, our noses, our mouths and eyes, make us who we are.
They
Many
do.
people call this race. But even though we look different, we're all part of the human race.
Isn't it cool, Elmo? Very cool.
Pick a fucking lane. This time we're all different. We're all going to be celebrating our differences, but we're all the same. We're all Americans. We're all part of the human race. Shut the fuck up with this shit. You're just here. You want to work hard. You'll be fine. If you don't, God fucking help you.
Get out of the way.
That is the fucking answer. Ugh. It's a difference. 2021. It's a nonstop discussion about skin color.
And the guy who does Elmo, black guy.
Yeah.
Kevin Clash.
That's right.
And
did he get into some trouble?
Yes,
or is that
he
another
did.
guy?
I don't know if he still does Elmo. to be
indeed
honest.
he did. What was the doc called? Like
Being Elmo.
Being Elmo.
So
I have no idea.
started 17 games in 2 years for the Bucks, the tight end that is, and is gone to the Raiders this year
His first year was last year.
with the
He
Raiders.
signed in March of 2020.
Oh, okay.
Well, he caused COVID.
I'm his third string for Raiders.
You got him a third string.
Yeah.
Uh-oh.
This is a sound
That's
theory.
a bubble situation.
Yeah.
Oh boy. Good luck, Chucky.
That was a major
You're
job
never going to be
security.
able to cut him.
Yeah. So,
Well,
yeah.
it's kind of a thing, and this is where we're at. Speaking of the color of your skin or whatever, if you have a applicant for Harvard and one is black and one is Asian, you'd be better off describing yourself as black than Asian to get into Harvard. And you got a much better chance of getting into Harvard. And if you're getting a job at Silicon Valley, same rules apply. So people are understanding that there's kind of a system.
Right.
And if you're looking for any advantage in a very tightly fought system, then this would give you one. And I don't, saying coming out as gay is not going to get you a spot on that team. It's just going to might be the difference between you and the Asian getting into Harvard.
Well, and that's the thing. How the pendulum has swung.
Yes.
I mean, we went from, you could potentially be killed, let alone not considered for a job, to I better come out now and keep for job security.
I'll tell you, the famous Oakland Raider who would not be down with this, the great Otis Sistrunk.
Why?
I'll just show you a picture of Otis Sistrunk.
That
and
name says everything
You'll
you need to
know
know.
that he probably wasn't down with
Otis
the cause.
is a badass.
Yeah. Probably one of these guys who smoked on the sideline.
He has the name Trunk in his name.
Sistrunk.
He might have smoked on the line.
Yes.
His 3-point stance.
Oh, my God.
You think Otis would have been down with the cause?
I don't think he would have been openly supportive, no.
All right. What else? One more half
Okay. Well,
story.
let's get the latest update on Chrissy Teigen. And I'm only doing this
boy.
because since we talked about it last time, she has stepped forward to refute. So she has admitted to bullying celebrities in the past. But when it comes to this guy, Michael Costello, who I told you about not too long ago, the designer, she says it's complete bullshit. Costello recently posted these screenshots of alleged messages from Teigen showing her attacking him. I read one on the show. It said, good luck with your career.
100% bullshit.
Right. Well, he said Chrissy got him blacklisted after he was falsely accused of being a racist several years ago, and that incident left him suicidal. But Chrissy says those DMs are fake. She said in a statement, no idea what the bleep Michael Costello is doing. He just released a statement where he didn't at all acknowledge how fake those DMs were and now claims to have emails that don't exist. Meanwhile, Teigen's statement also appears to hit back at Courtney Stodden's claim that Teigen sent her direct messages telling her to kill herself. Is it possible in a day of verified accounts that we have impersonators and copycats harassing people just for the sake of doing it?
I don't know. And then in today's world, you might as well just say, no, my account was hacked or whatever. And
a deep fake.
People will lose interest
Yeah.
and keep walking.
Well, it was pretty. I mean, to read those, screenshots to say like, "Ha ha ha! I hope you kill yourself." What's your career going to do now, Bryan?
Is there enough time?
It's I just felt her side needed, because that was pretty brutal if she's going around attacking young designers and whoever else.
Well, the problem
Might be
is
asking for it.
if you go out and attack people, then we believe you're capable of. So you go out and you have all these feuds with all these celebrities and designers, and then you go, true, but then there's this part.
Right,
you know what I
that's
mean?
true.
And then it's kind of like,
Pretty
well,
open to it.
unfortunately, you have a history of going at it. Again, we should feel sorry for John Legend.
Right.
Who,
He's her biggest supporter.
Well, he better be, because there's going to be trouble.
Financially.
All right, let's bring it home.
You got it. I'm Gina Grad, and that's the news.
Man, you button hooked me. Here we go.
I guess the scam is over.
Gina Grad.
That was the news with Gina Grad.
All right. Last but not least, we got Keeps over here. There are only 2 FDA-approved medications to prevent hair loss. Keeps offers both. Keeps, a simple, stress-free way to keep your hair. Convenient virtual doctor consultations and medications delivered straight to your door every 3 months in discreet packaging. Low-cost treatments start at just $10 per month. $10 per month. Proven results. Keeps has more 5-star reviews than its competitors. Check out the before and after photos. Prevention, well, that's the key. Treatments can take 4 to 6 months to see results, so act fast. It's Keeps, right, Dawson?
If you're ready to take action and prevent hair loss, go to Keeps, KEEPS.com/Adam to receive your first month of treatment for free. That's KEEPS.com/Adam. To get your first month free, KEEPS.com/Adam.
Well, Adam Grant will be up next. He's an organizational psychologist and New York Times bestselling author. We'll talk about how to get out of wherever you're at if you don't want to be where you're at. We'll talk to him one-on-one right after this. All right, we're back with Adam Grant, organizational psychologist, New York Times bestselling author, has a new book out called Think Again, The Power of Knowing What You Don't Know, available now on Amazon. Good to speak to you again, Adam.
You too, Adam. Thanks for having me back.
My pleasure. So we'll get into the book and we'll get into organizational psychology. Well, define organizational psychology, please.
I study how to make work not suck.
Oh, that's a nice way to put it. And
it's a low bar.
What are, it's funny as it pertains to work. When I was growing up, it was just work was work and it sucked because it was work, and then Friday rolled around and you got to do things that didn't suck. That's sort of how it was. Now there's a whole new world order going on out there where work is supposed to be many more things than it was when I was coming up. And I think some of that's good, and then some of it probably isn't. Maybe some people have a little too high an expectation level, but how do we make work suck less?
Well, I think, first of all, you're right. I think it's a double-edged sword that a lot of people are expecting meaning and community at work where they used to just want a paycheck. The good news is some people have much more fulfilling jobs than they used to. The bad news is people sometimes get exploited. If they have a calling or passion at work, managers take that and say, I don't need to pay you because you really love what you do. So I worry about that a lot. And I guess for me, the vision of work that doesn't suck is, first of all, you don't have an abusive boss. You have people who treat you with respect. Secondly, you get to work on something that you think matters, that makes a difference in the lives of others. And third, you have the freedom to make choices about what you do, and especially now, where and when you do it.
Well, I'm looking down at your bio, and it says most important qualities in a work environment are generosity, grit, and humility. Shall we explore that thought?
I don't know. Should we? You tell me. You're the host. You're in charge here.
Well, I'm a much more magnanimous host than most, Letterman was mean, but I'm friendly.
If you do say so yourself.
If I do say so myself. So let's explore that.
Yeah, let's. I think too many people go to work every day and think their job is essentially to be the smartest person in the room and to take everybody else down. And that means that if I want to succeed, you have to fail. And I would much prefer to work in an organization, and I think most people are with me on this, where I could actually help you in ways that lift me up too. So that's what I'm looking for in a generous workplace. I think grit and humility are about pursuing excellence and also knowing that just as we all have strengths, we also have weaknesses too. I cannot tell you how many leaders I work with who believe that they are the most effective person to make every decision, as opposed to realizing sometimes I'm the expert and sometimes I am completely unqualified. And so I guess my vision of a leader is somebody who has the security to admit what they don't know and acknowledges even that they might sometimes be wrong.
Yeah, I'll tell you, as a guy who's been the boss before, the thing that always pisses off the boss the most is when somebody says, that's not my job. So sometimes it's like empty the trash can or, clean out the microwave. But other times I cannot remember what it was, but I remember talking to Jimmy Kimmel about this once, and some lower level somebody wouldn't go just like pick up someone and take them somewhere or something because they just said, that's not my job. And it always gets under the skin of the boss, because the boss is usually the boss because they were willing to do all jobs all the time at some point in their career. Like they were willing to do stuff that was way out of their scope of work just to get it done and just to be a team player. And when you say to that guy, not my job, it drives them nuts. And I feel like there's kind of more of that going on than they're used to.
It does seem like there's a level of entitlement that didn't exist in previous generations. Although my read of the data is it's more age than generation, right? That 22-year-olds, generally speaking, are a little bit more self-absorbed than people in their 40s and 50s. But it does seem like it's gotten worse. And I think one of the reasons it's gotten worse is nobody stays at their employer for 30 years anymore.
Mm-hmm.
Right? This used to be a long-term commitment where you had to build loyalty and earn your place. And now it's sort of a quick stop on the path to somewhere else. And people don't feel like they need to pay their dues the same way.
Yeah, it's interesting. If you're of a certain age and you grew up, you can remember that your team, for me, it was the Dodgers. And I was more of a football fan, but, I grew up in L.A. I like the Dodgers. The entire infield was the same infield my entire childhood, with Davey Lopes at second base and Steve Garvey at first base and Ron Say at third base and maybe Bill Russell at shortstop or whatever. It seemed like that my entire childhood, it was just the same dudes playing the same positions. And in sports, it's mirrored a lot what we're seeing in the corporate world, that the team doesn't stay together for 10 seasons.
Yeah, it has. It's funny because I grew up as a Tigers fan, and we lost Kirk Gibson to your Dodgers. And then he had that amazing one-legged home run, right, in the World Series. I think that, everybody's more itinerant now. And I think in some ways that's good news because it gives people more power. It means that, you don't have to spend your whole career stuck in an oppressive or toxic culture. But it also means that it's really hard to get people on board with a long-term commitment to a big mission. And one of the things that I saw a couple of years ago, I was studying an organization called Morningstar. They make a lot of the tomato paste in the US, and they've never had a single boss there. So they've run for decades without a hierarchy. And I was just curious, like, how in the world do you make that happen? And they do a lot of things that I would not recommend to anyone I care about. But one of the practices that I took home with me was they said, for the first year, you do the job of your predecessor. And then once the year is up, you get to rewrite your job description. And you just have to do two things. One, you have to explain how what you want to do is going to advance the mission. And two, you have to go to the 5 to 10 people that you're most interdependent with and get their buy-in. And if those people agree that what you want to do is going to serve the organization, great, you just reinvented your job. How cool would it be if more of us got to do that?
Yeah, I haven't had a traditional job in a weird way in so long that I don't even know what to think about jobs anymore. And I've never, even when I was a carpenter, it wasn't really a traditional job. You just were kind of gun for hire. You'd float from job site to job site. Like you didn't really work your way up the corporate ladder or anything. It was just, you were just sort of, a couple of clicks above a day labor, but that was it. Just sort of nomadic tribesmen with a skill saw. That was just sort of floated around. Radio's got a lot of the same components to it. I was a boxing coach. That was sort of the same kind of job. Like, later on, podcasting and things like that. I always just felt like sort of a gun for hire. I just felt like I'll get paid. In order for me to get paid, I'm going to have to make somebody more money than they're paying me. That was about all. That was about all I had. When I started radio, they wanted to offer me they wanted to make me the highest paid part-time employee of the radio station. And part-time employees at a radio station are van drivers and phone operators who they pay $6 an hour to. And I just said to the program director, I said, I'm not interested. I would do this job for free. That's how into it I am. I'm totally into doing this job. And if there's no money, there's no money. I'll come do the job for free. But if I'm making somebody money, then I need something commensurate with what I'm making them.
Yeah.
Not the highest paid part-timer.
I think what I'm hearing in that story is that Adam Carolla is unemployable. Could not have a boss to save your life at this point, right?
I don't know. I feel like nobody's my boss and everyone's my boss, because at a certain point, your audience becomes your boss. Go out and try to do stand-up and start talking about shit that isn't funny, that only interests you, and find out how fast your bosses turn on you. You know what I mean? I mean, it sounds kind of corny. It's like when the president goes, my bosses are the 330 million American citizens that elect, it's like, yeah, right. But in the world of book writing or stand-up or podcasting or selling shit online or whatever it is, that, in a way, your audience is your boss.
That's so interesting. So none of those people have individual power over you, but collectively, you're accountable to them.
Yeah, the audience could unionize and shut me down.
I think we should run that experiment just to see what happens.
Well, it is interesting if you just take stand-up as a metaphor for this. I mean, it sounds kooky to say you go to a club, there's 400 people in the club, they're all your boss. But if you really kind of think about it, they kind of are your boss, because if you just want to show up half-cocked, had too many drinks on the airplane, walk out there completely unprepared, and just start bloviating about what you saw in the newspaper in the dressing room, you'll see people get up and walk out. I mean, they will leave. They're voting with their feet. They certainly aren't coming back next time you come to town. You're going to have you're getting paid directly on how many tickets you sell, right? So if you show up next time and the place is half full, then you're going to make half the money you made the outing before. And so there is a kind of a relationship there, and in a way, maybe more directly and more in real time, they are your boss.
That's really interesting. I never would have seen it that way. I would have thought about it more in terms of, the club manager being your temporary boss and then taking the feedback from your audience, which is sort of like your customer. And if you bomb over and over again, you're not getting rehired by the manager. But you're right. The customer has a lot of power there, the audience in this case.
It is a real, it's a real-time study in who you are, how you did last time, what kind of experience you had. I just got off the road. I was in Golden, Colorado, and was signing some books and hanging out and taking pictures with people after the show. And you will have people come up to you and go, this is the 10th time I've seen you. And I always think, oh my God, I must have told the same joke. Like, you must have heard the same joke a bunch of times. Like, I hope I changed things up, But that guy's my boss, and I'm not being, cute or even aw shucksy about it. I mean, those are your bosses. You write a book. If your last book sucked, then your bosses are going to essentially fire you by not buying your new book.
Yes. Oh, this is such a fun way to think about work. It reminds me, I have an ongoing debate with Malcolm Gladwell about what profession has the most insight on human psychology. Mm-hmm. And his choice was teachers. That teachers have to understand people better than anyone else in order to get a group of elementary school kids to sit still and want to learn. And my counterpoint was comedians understand human behavior better than anyone, because a drunk crowd is harder to manage. And also you have to figure out what's going to make people laugh when you've never met them before. So you're probably biased on this one, but where would you come down?
Well, I would tell Malcolm that the class is a captive audience. That's essentially the comedian performing in prison. No one's getting up and leaving. But as a guy who went through the LA Unified School District and was a horrible student and was bored off my ass and had some of the oldest, shittiest, least dynamic teachers on the planet, believe you me, if I could have just paid my bar tab and got up and left, I would have got up and left out of every class I'd taken. So imagine if it was a school teacher, but the size of their class was dependent on how dynamic they were and how engaging they were and how whatever they were, then that would hold true. But that's not how the school system works. The school system just says, here's 30 random kids, and if any of them try to get up and go anywhere other than the bathroom, they're going to get suspended. So I would argue to Malcolm that is a captive audience, and thus Louis C.K. should probably get more praise than my science teacher, Mrs. Wolk.
Wow. Well, you're preaching to the choir on that case, but the model you just described is basically college electives, right? Where you fill seats by making the class interesting or useful in some way.
Yeah, but there's still a dynamic even amongst the electives, which is you have to choose something. And some people will just take the path of least resistance. Like a lot of bad college students I know said, I took this class because we'd be outdoors and we only had to go for an hour a week, or like whatever it was. There's still an element there. Whereas
that's right. I don't have to go to a comedy show. I could just stay home.
Yes. I wish it was mandatory. And but
that's a new law waiting to be passed. Every American must go to at least one comedy show a week.
But then it would be corrupted, because if it was mandatory for everyone in Golden, Colorado to attend a comedy show, then the club owner wouldn't pay me to come in. He'd take lesser talents with less experience to just go up there and do some sort of mandatory. And the next thing you know, we'd have government comedy, and that would be the worst thing ever.
I think that's an oxymoron.
Well, unintentional maybe, but certainly not attempts at humor. So what shall we look forward to? Like, where's this all heading? Because anyone who's dealt with a younger class of employee, first off, there's a confusion. You know what I mean? Like when I talk to guys who are bosses and they're interviewing employees, and for the first time ever, the employee is explaining to them that they're not coming in on the 25th because they got something going on. You know, they got a half birthday coming up they got to celebrate, and so on and so forth. And I think to the old school bosses, that kind of thing is confusing. And I think what we've been doing is we've been saying to the old school bosses, well, here's a theory for you, and you tell me what you think. We've been saying to the old guard, you guys have to change with the times. Understand that the New World Order is when you interview employees, prospective employees, they're going to tell you the days they need off and the things they need, and you know they're going to have gluten allergies and they're going to need you to accommodate them, and so on and so forth. And I think 10 years ago when people were discussing this, they were saying these old guard employers, they got to learn to change with the times and they have to start accommodating. But maybe the young recruits should be doing a little more changing as well, because I don't think it serves them to go, all right, we'll bring the mountain to Mohammed.
Yeah, I think there's a kernel of wisdom there, because if you look pre-COVID, what we assumed was, okay, it's young people entering the workforce who want flexibility. They value work-life balance more than previous generations did. They want control over their time and their lives. So they're going to set the terms. And if you want that talent, then you have to cater to them a little bit. I think one of the silver linings of the pandemic is the people who are most eager to come back to the workplace, other than CEOs who want to feel important and sit in their corner office again. I think the next most enthusiastic group is single people who are in their 20s and 30s. That's the group that says work from home is terrible. I'm bored. I can't focus. I miss my colleagues. I even miss having a boss breathing over my shoulder. And I think that we're seeing now in a lot of industries that young people really want the office, and that it's people who are older, people who have kids at home that say, nah, I'm pretty happy to have my own little space in place here. So I think there's going to be a little bit of give and take from both sides around that.
We'll do some tweet-splaining with you, which is we pulled up a few of your recent tweets. And, well, no, don't... we're not going to ask you to explain them as if they're, controversial, but your thoughts behind those tweets would be something that I think our audience would be interested in hearing. Let's talk about the book title, Think Again, The Power of Knowing What You Don't Know. Let's talk about that. I do feel like so many people just know what they know, and a lot of it started with I know in my heart, which really doesn't mean anything because everyone has a heart and they all seem to know what they know.
Yeah, I prefer to think with my brain. I don't know about you.
Well, I don't know how much of this is motivational. I constantly say to people, why would this person do that? And the answer is because they're an asshole. And I go, yeah, okay, maybe they're an asshole, but they're going to lose their job. Why would they say that? Or why would they do it? Like, what is behind it? And people don't want to stop and try to figure out what the person was doing and what motivated them to do it. And that's something that I feel like I keep circling back to.
Yeah, that's a great example of people failing to think again about someone else's behavior, right? So you make an assumption about what drives someone else. It's usually driven by a combination of projection bias, which is I assume other people are motivated like I am, or the opposite, which is that person is not doing something appropriate or respectful in my view, and therefore they must be bad or wrong. And I think that obviously somebody with a little bit of humility and curiosity says, you know what, I know a lot of things, but I am not a mind reader. I can't possibly know what makes someone else tick. And so the only way I can really find out is to ask them, right? To go to the person and say, Adam, I really didn't understand what you were thinking in this situation. Can you help me make sense of it? And you will find that sometimes they actually tell you something that was useful. Other times they're clueless about their own behavior and they're trying to rationalize it and justify it, realizing that they don't exactly know what fueled it to begin with. But in any case, it's a useful conversation to have because at least one of you learned something.
Well, let's just do a little thought experiment. How many times have you or me or the average person listening thought, what the fuck? Like, what's going on? What did this person do? Sometimes it's something that kind of basic and mechanical, like you leave something out. Just the notion of, I left something out so I could remember to take it with me into work, and where the fuck is it? And then you realize somebody who works for you or with you or a family member somehow moved it. And then your first thought is, what the fuck? What were they doing with it? This is bullshit. And then you realize that's your first impulse. It's a negative. It's a negative. What's wrong with that person? How many? I'd say 7 out of 10 times when you talk to the person, they go, oh, I was cleaning stuff and I put it in the drawer, or I was doing something in service of you, perhaps, but ended up having a negative outcome. I will take this very simple real world thing. Anyone who's ever tried to pull out of their driveway or their garage or something in their car and realize that someone is blocking them. Someone had parked their car and is blocking. You go from 0 to what the fuck in 2.7 seconds. Like, what the fuck? Mm-hmm. Almost always it's somebody came by to drop something off, some sort of, it's really just timing, essentially. Like they came by, they're doing something for you, but they parked their car right as you were walking out of the house. But you go right from what the fuck, and then you find out that they were delivering flowers, and then you feel bad, and then you realize you were wrong. If it happens that often in a sort of mechanical world, like a tangible world, I would say the batting average is almost as high in a sort of psychological, sort of non-tangible world where you go, why would they say that? Or why would they do? And you go right to what the fuck. And if you realize you're wrong most of the time, then you can stop yourself at what the fuck and try to figure out what they're doing. Also, I don't think people do a very good job of analyzing other people. Like, is this an evil person? Is this person running around trying to thwart you or make your life more difficult? Like, who is this person, and how come you don't know that person?
I think the world would be a slightly better place if more people went through that thought process you just described, because generally speaking, one of the first things I learned as a psychologist is behavior usually makes sense to the other person. Otherwise, they wouldn't have done it. Right. And if you start from the assumption that it doesn't make sense, or it only makes sense in a world where they're trying to screw you, then you're living in a pretty ugly world. Well, and you kind of don't want to hang out there too often.
I think so much of it is narcissism, where you go, that person's trying to screw me. It's like that the person doesn't know you. Why would they be trying to screw you?
I think some of this also boils down to what psychologists would call the fundamental attribution error, which is this is an American thing, probably more than anywhere else in the world, that we explain people's behavior in terms of their personality, who they are, as opposed to recognizing how the situation they're in or the context that they're part of might have caused that behavior. So I'll give you an example of where I run into this constantly. I trying to think of how much. Okay, well, I have a bad habit of going into prosecuting attorney mode when I think someone is wrong. Mm-hmm. And one day I was called a logic bully. I had a student who said, Adam, you're just bombarding me with data and facts, and I don't agree with you, but I can't push back. And my first reaction was, thank you, because that's my job as a social scientist, to correct people who are wrong. And then I realized that I have done that so many times in my life that I find that somebody has what I think is incorrect information, and I try to set the record straight. And somebody who meets me in that setting thinks that I'm a jerk because I'm just steamrolling their argument. And then it's also really ineffective for me because I bring my prosecuting attorney, and what do? They show up at court with their best defense attorney, and nobody moves at all. So if they explain that in terms of, well, Adam is a stubborn person, or he's closed-minded, or, he doesn't listen to other people, or he always thinks he's right, like they're going to have a bunch of negative assumptions about me, right? If instead they say, oh, well, personality is just a bunch of if-thens, right? We all have certain things that push our buttons. And one of mine is when people pretend to know things they don't know, or when they make false assumptions, and that's what triggers my inner logic bully. If they saw the if, they would say, oh, well, if I just admit maybe I don't have all the answers here, I'm going to see a different version of this person. And this is something that psychologists have been trying to do for the past couple of decades now, is to get us to stop describing people as just, well, that person is an extrovert, or that person is neurotic. And instead say, well, what are the situations where they act extroverted, and what are the times when they tend to become neurotic? And I think that brings a little bit of nuance into understanding what other people are up to.
Yeah, I guess if you ever hear people sort of describe you, it always feels so far off. Like they go, he's this way or that way. I have the same thing in the sense that I just want to get to the bottom of everything. And a lot of people have this thing, which is I usually argue over the excuse more than the event. And that's the folly that I engage in, because I find that you'll say to somebody, "Why'd you do this?" and they'll just spit something out, and it won't make sense. And then you follow it up, and they're like, "Why are we arguing about this?" And my thing is because you just spit out a nonsensical whatever. But I do get a lot of like, I'm set in my ways, and it's my way or the highway, and if you disagree with me, you're whatever. And I don't feel like that's true at all. I feel like people disagree with me quite a bit, probably more than they should, and that it's almost it's a daily occurrence in my world. And I compromise all the time. I always ask people like, "You want to do this? You want to do that?" Like I'll eat Italian or I'll eat Mexican. You tell me what you want to do. But there's something that I give off where people graft that on constantly, and it's been around for a long time. And there's something, although because people even 20 years ago they go, you disagree with Adam, you're down the road, man. You're down the road. And it's funny, my co-host Brian Bishop really constantly just does disagree with me on almost everything all the time. And I've been working with him for 25 years. As I always go, look no further than Brian. Brian's a professional point shitter. But then I have to think to myself, how do I get that mantle? Then where did that come from?
Well, I have a hypothesis. You can tell me whether it's right or wrong, or maybe your colleagues can. We might have to ask Brian. But I think it's because you're disagreeable and opinionated that people make the leap and assume that you're going to then you're going to be thin-skinned, or you're not going to take it well if somebody does challenge you, as opposed to realizing, part of the joy of being disagreeable is you're actually energized by conflict, right? You enjoy fighting with somebody else. I think that's part of how you learn. That's part of how you pressure test your opinions. I feel like I've been watching you do that since the Man Show, right? It's like you like to go into the intellectual ring and spar. And I think people misread that as not being able to tolerate disagreement as opposed to, kind of savoring it.
Yeah, I think that's a pretty decent hypothesis. A, because it's favorable to me, but B, if the hypothesis is it's Adam's way or the highway, then the highway should be littered with people who disagreed with me, but nobody's on that highway. And
so the evidence isn't there.
No, I not to support the hypotheses that it's my way or the highway. And also it's hard to do sort of group comedy. You can't work on the Man Show and have, any director, producer, writer who disagrees with me, we're going to fire him. It's a constant disagreement, because when you do sort of collaborative comedy, the whole idea is to beat everyone else's joke. So the plan isn't, here's my joke and we're going with it. The plan is here's my joke. Who can beat my joke? Who's got a better idea that I can use that will elevate me? Which is...
It's a friendly competition.
It's a friendly competition where I get to be the winner because nobody wants to know who thought of that joke. I mean, you think about whatever your favorite sitcom is, you don't think who wrote that joke for that actor or that actress. You just go, I like that sitcom.
That's right.
But people do get very competitive, and they do fight for their lesser jokes because it's their joke.
Yeah, because they still get the credit in your eyes, right? Even if the audience doesn't know.
Right.
And they also get the satisfaction and the validation that they made you laugh or they impressed you, right? Which is, I think, something we're all looking for. It's interesting though. One of the things I've learned about those kinds of competitions recently, I was really grappling with this while I was writing Think Again. It seems like I have this impulse when other people disagree with me that the more reasons I can come up with to defend my argument, the better. And then I read all this evidence and gathered some of my own too, showing that the more arguments you give, the more likely you are to dilute the argument. So somebody just picks your least compelling of the 9 reasons and throws out the whole case. Mm-hmm. And then you're also signaling that you're trying to persuade them, and people don't want to be persuaded. And they often put their guard up. So what I've been trying to do now, and I'd love to get your reaction to this, is when I disagree with someone, I'll just say, here are 1 or 2 reasons why I have a different point of view. What do you see as the pros and cons of what you just heard? And then I can start to learn from their perspective and tailor the argument a little bit to where they are, as opposed to just kind of throwing out my whole case and then ruining my pitch. What do you make of that?
I haven't thought about it, but I just did, and here's my answer to that. And I think we've all seen it. All right, I'll get to it in a circuitous kind of serpentine kind of way. I'll work my way to it. The lots of answers for the same point that you're trying to make is not effective, like stats that are too down to the decimal don't work. I oftentimes wonder when they go, 28.3% of adult Americans between the ages of 18 and 49 do not suffer adverse effects from COVID. According to the CDC's own chart, the 18 to 49-year-old males, which make up the 28.8% demographic, only had a 3.7 chance of a comorbidity. And it's like, I don't even know what the fuck this guy's talking about. I've completely lost it because they've drilled it, Don't say 23.9, just go almost 25%. You know what I mean? Or just say 25%.
Or better yet, almost a quarter.
Right, or a quarter of Americans, males, young males, say, X, Y, and Z. You start getting, everyone loses track immediately. The other thing is you've seen it, your hypotheses and your argument, you felt it in your own way, because whenever you're seeing politicians, and they're having a debate and there's a politician that you're voting for and that politician is debating someone you're not voting for. So you're rooting for your politician. And you'll see that politicians sometimes say to the other politician, yes or no, you voted against immigration reform in 2016. And then that person will say, I'm a huge advocate of immigration reform. And then the person will go, well, what about building the wall? You voted again. And you go, no, just go back to the first, just yes or no. Just don't move. Stay there. Just stay on that thing until they answer whether they voted yes or no on the immigration reform bill from 2016. Or a reporter will do that to a politician. They'll try to get an answer. Politician gives them a non-answer, and then they go right on to the next subject. You're completely right in your epiphany that most subjects, it's not the guy with the most data wins. It's the guy who and you'll see it, I think, if you ever see a Jon Stewart or Colbert or Kimmel or these guys, when you see, or Bill Maher, when you see that sort of comedians debate, they don't skip all over the channel. They kind of stay to one thing and they just kind of stay with it until whoever they're getting into it with capitulates.
That makes so much sense. One of the places I went to try to study this was professional debaters, and I spent some time with this guy Harish Natarajan, who I think has won more world debate championships than anybody. And it was so interesting to watch him in action, because when he makes an argument, he'll just put 1 or 2 points out there and then ask you a couple questions. And what he wants you to do is just process a little bit of information and lead yourself to the conclusion, because we're all persuaded most by the person we like and trust, which is ourselves, as opposed to, trying to ramrod you with a whole bunch of facts that you can't even keep track of. And it really turned upside down my idea of how to have an argument. Because I guess to your point, I've gone in for a long time thinking the person with the most information and the best evidence wins. No, it's the person who invites the other side to come and join them for a beer or a drink, right?
And I also think that, people say, Dr. Drew always says all the time, it's like once people get defensive, then there's no getting through to them. And I'm like, well, then everyone should knock it off with getting so defensive because you have a point or an idea. But I've also, I'm just thinking of Jon Stewart from last week when he was on Colbert. And everyone has been arguing the Wuhan thing and the lab leak and here's what we know. And, to make your point, a lot of the talking heads on Fox would say, the bat genome has X amount of microns of DNA and it's like, we're already lost. You're explaining, Jon Stewart gets up there and says there's a virus and there's a lab with the same name that the virus has on it up the street. And you go, oh, yeah. And then he goes, and what if it was chocolatey goodness that was out on the street and the Hershey's factory was up the street? And you go, oh, yeah, of course. And then we're done. He just painted a picture. Doesn't make him right or wrong. It just means he super effectively, but he didn't get into how many milligrams weight of bats and gain of function and all this other genome shit. He just went right to this super easy metaphor for everyone to understand and digest. And it's like he made his argument.
That is masterful communication in action. I think this defensiveness issue is something we're all running into now, especially in such a polarized world. And one of the coolest things that I guess that I've internalized and tried to practice since I learned about it is, have you come across this technique called motivational interviewing?
No.
So it's something that was developed in counseling psychology to try to help people overcome addiction, where you had a lot of people going into either prosecutor or preacher mode and saying, you need to change and my way is the way. And, obviously a lot of defensiveness came out of that. And this group of psychologists said, what if instead of trying to bully you into changing your mind, we help you find your own motivations to change? Mm-hmm. And what they do is they basically sit down with you and they say, okay, tell me about, your experiences with drinking. What does it do in your life? Tell me about the good. Tell me about the bad. And then usually the person will say, well, I really enjoy, the escape and the rush, but occasionally end up in jail for a night. And instead of, immediately trying to sell that, what the psychologists will do is say, I mean, look, I'm not here to judge. Like, maybe, I don't know. Do you enjoy being in jail for a night? Like, is that a problem in your life? You tell me. And what they're doing is they're helping people see their own ambivalence and then find their own reasons to change and kind of tell their own story. And I've been seeing this applied a lot right now to the vaccine conversation, as well as some other topics, to say, you know what, instead of just, throwing a logical argument at you and trying to cite a bunch of data, what if I just asked you, what evidence would change your mind? And is that enough to start a more open conversation?
I've found something that I have been doing more frequently, maybe to battle this. And I also noticed that attorney Mark Garrigus does it, which is he'll preface a lot of stuff with, oh, I was thinking of you and I wanted to, and I know you probably were thinking about this thing. Or it's sort of like I find myself going, I heard this thing and I thought of you because I know this is the way you think. And I always tell this story, but when Jimmy and I were over at K-Rock Radio a million years ago, and we were always trying to pitch stuff to the program director who was constantly going, nah, we're not going to do that. That's not funny. We're not going to let you do that. He'd always go, just make it his idea. Just go in there and go, that thing you had about this, I thought that was great. I got a way to do it. Person usually doesn't remember half the time, but they like that it was their idea, or they like that you were thinking of them, or you like that, I know I want to get your take on this because I value your input on this stuff. Like if you preface it with that, people's guard drops immediately, and they're so much more receptive to whatever the next thing that comes out of your mouth is.
This is one of my favorite new findings in psychology, that if you want to influence somebody who might be an adversary and bring them on board as an advocate, just ask them for their advice. The first thing you do is you flatter them, right? Like, you must be a genius. You knew to come to me.
Right.
And then also you motivate them to actually try to solve the problem for you, or at least think through it from your perspective. And it's amazing how often people come in and think that, you know, they have to make the hard persuasive pitch, as opposed to just saying, hey, Adam, I've got this idea. Would love your guidance on it. I know you're great at, you know, making things happen.
Yeah, I mean, it's as old as grandma saying you catch more flies with honey, or whatever the adage is. But it is true, and it's kind of unfortunate that you have to kind of set the table that way. Otherwise, people are going to be close-minded, or they're going to push back or get defensive about things. But I do think that's kind of the new world order. And I do notice that the effective communicators, guys like Mark Garagos, who have to be a very effective communicator of ideas. If you're going to stand in a courtroom and try to get someone off for murder, you got to really be able to express ideas. He always says to me, I heard this story. I thought of you. I wanted your take on it. And now I find myself wanting to not disappoint. Like, I'm like, he's thinking of me. Well, he heard the story and he thought of me, and he can't wait to hear my take on it. I'm like, oh, shit, I better come up with something. Like, it actually forces the person to perform a little bit now when they posit that question. All right, let me tell you guys about Scott'sCheapFlights.com. Scott's Cheap Flights. Travel the world and never pay full price again. People pay way too much for flights. Prices go up, they go down by hundreds of dollars, even in the same day. So you could pay a different price than the person next to you on the exact same flight. They combine technology with a team of flight experts to monitor thousands of routes on major airlines all day, every day. When prices drop, they send members an email, and they send them an alert so they'll never miss an amazing deal, like to Europe or Japan, for less than $300 round trip on quality airlines, no less. No kickbacks from airlines. Their only goal is to send their members great deals. It's Scott's Cheap Flights, right, Dawson?
Join for free at scottscheapflights.com/Adam and never overpay for flights again. Again, join for free at scottscheapflights.com/Adam. scottscheapflights.com/Adam.
All right, we'll take a quick break with Adam Grant, organizational psychologist and New York Times bestselling author, and then we'll do the tweet-splaining with Adam right after this.
It's time to tweet-splain. It's not really a game.
Please let me sit down. This is making me sick.
It's just where we ask you to explain your tweet. Tweet-splain.
The book, Think Again. It's available now on Amazon. All right, Dawson, you have some of Adam's recent tweets?
Let's start with this one. Public service announcement. Not everyone who disagrees with you is stupid or evil. Even if you're not a fan of what they did, you might learn something from how they think.
That was sent out June 4th. Tweet-splain, Adam.
I did write that, didn't I?
Mm-hmm.
This is such a fun task. Although I have to say, like, aren't you defeating the purpose of a tweet? I'm limited to 240 characters for a reason, and now I have to turn my tweet into an essay or a soliloquy. But
just had a little.
I think
internet.
That
sorry, go ahead.
Too many people. Did you lose me?
No, go ahead. Too many people.
Hold on. Is my internet spotty?
Could be yours. Could be ours.
Well, I just think too many people on social media. No, I just got an unstable. Hold on 1 second. Let me just see if I can stable. Okay. How about now?
You're good.
Are we back?
Yes.
Do I need to talk more that you can tell?
Well,
I'll
hear
keep
you
talking.
fine.
I have nothing to say at the moment, but I'm going to keep talking so you can.
Can you hear us?
Okay, good. All right. I'll try that again. Here we go. Yep, loud and clear. You can hear me okay?
Yep.
Was that a yes? Yep.
Yes.
Good. Okay. Yeah, I think the thing that drives me crazy is that so many people on social media only follow someone if they agree with their conclusions, which defeats the whole point of learning, right? The purpose of learning is to evolve your beliefs, not to just go around validating your beliefs. And so I would love it if people welcome that kind of disagreement into their feeds. I think we should follow people because we respect the integrity of their thought process. People who ask important questions and try to answer them in a thoughtful way, those are the people I want to learn from, even if they don't reach the same conclusion as me.
I agree. Dr. Drew is very much that way. His thing is like, I would like to learn things. So I would like to hear everyone's angle on everything. And then oftentimes their angle will actually support your angle, even if they're disagreeing. And it happens quite a bit where you'll say something on air, so to speak, and then at some point you'll read the tweet, and the headline of the tweet will be "You're an asshole and you're wrong" about what it is you said. And then as you read some article that somebody posted, you'll realize, oh no, that's an old article and that was debunked, and you're actually kind of making my point. No, you're actually bolstering my point. So it's like sometimes you'll see things in people's response that bolsters your point, but not because they're trying to bolster your point.
Yeah.
And then sometimes they will just bolster your point by positively bolstering your point. And then other times they'll bring up really good pieces of information and you'll have to modify your point of view.
And even if none of that happens, you at least get to rethink how you had the argument because you learned something from somebody that you normally have a hard time getting through to.
All right, we have the next tweet, Dawson.
The most direct way to figure out what's valued in a culture isn't to listen to what people say is important. It's to pay attention to who gets rewarded and promoted into leadership roles. Groups elevate people who represent their principles and advance their goals.
I see so many workplaces claim, we value integrity and excellence and collaboration. And then they promote a bunch of liars and thieves and selfish jerks. And I think the real test of a culture is, who do you put into a position of power? That's where you show what kind of behavior you value and what you're willing to tolerate. And I did a podcast episode recently with John Amici, the psychologist and former NBA player. And he said that his view of a culture is that it's basically the worst behavior tolerated. And I stand by that.
Yeah, I'll add on to that with a slightly more esoteric approach, which is you'll turn on the TV and you'll be watching a commercial for Dove body wash, and they will be explaining what the new form of beauty is. Like, here's the new beauty, and it's a fat chick in her underpants. And you go, here's the new definition of beauty in our society. Like, well, we're constantly trying to redefine what that is. A bunch of plus-size chicks who are probably could lose a few for not aesthetic reasons, but for aesthetic reasons, but for health reasons. But anyway, they would like to peddle us this new aesthetic. They've been trying to peddle it for a long time. Okay, show me all the leading men who are in their 20s or who are in boy bands if they're with any of the chicks from the Dove commercial. Because they are the ones who they're the top of the food chain in terms of whatever aesthetic they're able to end up with their aesthetic. Meaning, you drive a truck for a living, you don't get to date supermodels. That's just how it is. But if you're the lead, if you are the lead singer in a boy band and straight, which happens on occasion, you get to date whomever you want to date, or you just figure out the celebrity, the George Clooney's of the world, or the guys who are constant, or Ben Affleck, or whatever. They get to date. Ben Affleck gets to date whoever he wants to date. Go back and look at his history. Put up the pictures of the women he was dating, or Leonardo DiCaprio. And then see if you see any plus-size Dove models in that group. And to me, That's a perfect example of here's what you're saying, but here's what DiCaprio, here's who he's fucking. He's fucking a bunch of skinny chicks that look hot in their underpants. And so I've disproven your point. Thank you.
Wow.
Well, can we argue if you just take guys who get to have sex with whoever they want to have sex with, and that's Leonardo DiCaprio, has he bought into your new version of aesthetic beauty?
I think here's where I'm stuck. Leonardo DiCaprio does not run Dove. Right? So
probably.
I mean, most likely.
He's probably an Axe guy.
To my knowledge.
He probably slathers on the Axe so women will find him attractive when he goes out.
Yeah, so I don't know if he's the intended audience, right? Or he's the
No, he is
people in
not.
power.
He is not. But he doesn't need to be. You could have never heard of
he's
Dove.
Setting the broader, right? He's setting the broader culture. Is your point?
Dove is explaining to us here is the new version of beauty. Well, I would say that Leonardo DiCaprio is on the front line of the new version of beauty, it never ends up comporting with the folks who manufacture Dove's version of the new version of beauty.
Right. Got it. Yes, I see that. Interesting.
Yeah. Well, that's who decides. I don't mean Leo speaks for all of us. I'm just saying, don't look at him as Leonardo DiCaprio. Look at him as the luckiest man in the world who gets to have sex with whoever he wants. And I'm sure there's many different nationalities in there. It's just none of them are over 130 pounds.
Right. And so I guess your test then would be if Dove was really if they were shaping the culture, they would have something like Victorian England, where people who were powerful or desirable were actually choosing women who were larger.
Yeah, I guess it's sort of like Kia saying, we make the best car in the world at any price, and anyone who had a choice should be driving a Kia, but everyone who's rich is driving an Audi or a Mercedes. They made the decision. They could drive any car. They chose Audi. So I don't believe Kia when they say this is the universal best car ever made.
Yeah,
that's what I'm saying.
Got it.
All right. What do you got, Dawson? We got another one?
A Netflix binge is a temporary escape from languishing, not a cure. Passive engagement in a fictional world doesn't offer a lasting sense of meaning, mastery, or mattering. Flourishing depends on activity participation in the real world, creating, connecting, and contributing.
That one stands alone. There's no reason to explain it. It's perfect.
Thank you, I think.
Let's not put our foot through a Picasso here. That was perfect. Yes, I agree. I also wonder, and I've had this happen a few times, which is the slippery slope of sort of getting lost in someone else's world. You know, I always go, build your own museum. Don't walk through everyone else's. And everyone's like, oh, I'm so enthralled. And it's like, yeah, and then you go to bed. But I just feel like there's nothing wrong with watching things or having a team to root for or having a series you enjoy, The Sopranos or what have you, Curb Your Enthusiasm. But some people really get caught up in it, and I feel like it's a little bit to their own demise.
I worry about that. I think this is the difference between watching and binging, right? When you binge, you actually do think, at least temporarily. I've had moments where I forget that the world isn't real.
Right.
Like I felt an attack. I remember watching Lost, feeling like I knew Jack and Kate and Sawyer and Saeed. And it was devastating when that show ended. I'm like, you took my friends away. They don't exist anymore. I think that's how a lot of people felt watching the Friends reunion. It's like, oh, my friends died. Now they're alive again, except you don't know them. Like Joey and Phoebe and Chandler and Rachel, they don't actually exist. And I think it's easier to remember that if you take it in little doses rather than doing the deep dive.
Let's do one more, Dawson. Oh, Dawson's eating.
When When this pandemic is finally over, everyone on Earth should get a month off work.
Well, I want an edit button for this one because I failed to realize when I wrote it that there are a lot of people who would love to have work, who have been unemployed, job searching during this pandemic. What I should have said was everyone should get a month of vacation because we've all been dealing with a lot of stress. Some people real loss, other people the loss of normalcy. And I think that we need a giant reset. And the way that this kind of phased reentry and reopening is working, there's no pause, there's no fresh start. And it'd be really great if we had a chance to just kind of disconnect from all the things that are stressing us out and celebrate for an extended period of time before whatever this new normal is that kicks in.
Yeah, I agree. I had a very rare day off the other day, and I just immediately started doing projects, like hanging up stuff and fixing stuff and doing stuff I hadn't. And I had this wildly gratifying day just by doing these projects. And I realized that I would have felt like I'd wasted the day if I didn't do all these projects, but they were so insanely gratifying. Just kept checking stuff off the list. You know, it's just a picture that'd been sitting on the floor leaning against the wall like for 2 months now hung, or just something cleaned, all the cobwebs in the back sliding door that were starting to gather with all the dust, just hosing them all down. Like it's I don't think I'm a broken record with this shit, but I don't think people know how insanely satisfying projects are, or being engaged, you know, in a more tangible physical world and just checking shit off that list. Especially because, you know, as I now think about it, there's a part of projects that I don't think people understand, which is they look at the project as I have to do this or I have to do that, but it's really testing your theory of how to do it. You know, is your remedy going to work? Once you hang the picture, is it going to stay? Is it centered in the wall? Is it the height that you want it? You know, did you execute your project? It's not, I mean, obviously, if you're just taking out the trash, you're taking out the trash. There's no great way to do that, but that's not a project. I think there's a lot of invisible satisfaction in not the completion of the project, but your modality. Like, how did you approach it, and how did you solve this problem? Because a project is a little mini physical problem oftentimes.
It is. And it reminds me that if you look at all the factors that predict people's daily energy and joy at work, the single most important one is just a sense of progress. Mm-hmm. Not necessarily a big accomplishment. It can be a small win. Like to your point, I figured something out. Like, I now know how to repair my car or bake a loaf of sourdough, right? And it's a little bit of a jolt of learning, and you feel like you've moved forward a little bit. And in a world where a lot of us have been languishing in that void of kind of joylessness and aimlessness, feeling like, I achieved something small in a project is, I think, a great opportunity both to get that little kick of mastery, and also to find flow, right? To get into one of those zones of deep work where you're absorbed in doing something as opposed to just watching something.
A positive note to go out on. The book, once again, Think Again, The Power of Knowing What You Don't Know. It's available now on Amazon. And Adam, let's see, the podcast, Work Life with Adam Grant as well. You can go there and get on Apple Podcasts and Spotify as well, and shoot him a tweet at Adam M. Grant. Thanks for joining me, Adam. It's always a pleasure to talk to you.
Pleasure was mine. Thanks for having me, Adam.
We'll talk soon, my friend. Last but not least, there's a LifeLock recent survey. 330 million people became victims of cybercrime. Another 55 million had their identity stolen. They spent almost 2.7 billion hours trying to resolve their issues. It's important to understand how cybercrime and identity theft are affecting our lives. Every day, we put our info at risk on the internet. In an instant, cyber criminals could harm your finances and your credit. Good thing there's LifeLock. LifeLock helps detect a wide range of identity threats like your social security number for sale on the dark web. You have access to a dedicated restoration specialist if you become a victim. Protect yourself with LifeLock, right, Dawson?
No one can prevent all identity theft or monitor all transactions at all businesses, but you can keep what's yours with LifeLock by Norton. Join now and save up to 25% off your first year by using promo code ADAM. Call 1-800-LifeLock or head to LifeLock.com. Use promo code ADAM for 25% off.
It's funny, we're talking about sort of jumping to conclusions and what have you. So I had some trash on the console here, and I looked behind me to find the trash can, which is always behind me, and it wasn't there. And I wanted to throw this trash away, but the trash can was gone. So then my first thought was, who the fuck took my trash can? And then my next thought was, maybe they were emptying it or something, but they still forgot to put it back. And then half hour later, I turned around and the trash can was sitting there. And I thought, wait a minute, the trash can was gone. Now the trash can is there. Who's mussing with my mind? Who's gaslighting me with my own trash can? So I said to Chris, what's up with the trash can? And then he said, well, we get it out of the shot on the wide shot. Looks stupid on the wide shot. And I went, okay, thank you. So that's how you go from what the fuck to, oh, okay. Because I don't assume anyone's moving the trash can because they're evil. They're just moving it for some reason. Now, we always ascribe something negative at the beginning. Somebody stole my trash can. But nobody wants your trash can. So why are they moving it? And usually it's something to service you. And that's why you have to ask. Mm-hmm. Right, Max Patton?
Yeah.
All right. Where's my trash can? Is it there?
It's there.
Thank Christ, my trash can. My precious can. All right. Anchorage, Alaska. Coots coming up this Saturday, July 3rd. Wow. Live podcast. Is that this Saturday? No.
No.
No, I knew it.
Yeah, you should have thought. You could think all you negative.
Yeah, now I'm angry again. Yeah, it's not this Saturday. It's next, July 3rd. And we're doing a live pod there. We're doing stand-up there. Raleigh, North Carolina, Minneapolis, Royal Oak, Michigan, Kansas City, Missouri. Just go to adamcarolla.com. Crank Yankers on tonight on Comedy Central, 10:30 p.m. And you can check out our Chassis channel on Pluto TV, 687. Till next time, it's Adam Carolla for Bryan and Gina Grad and Adam Grant saying mahalo.